Our drafters here today with an extra special draft primer for Doulbe Masters 2022. The Master sets are always highlights in the limited calendar. They're always really, really good draft sets. They push power levels beyond what we normally see in a draft set, and we get to see some really, really spicy stuff coming through. They are powerful. They feel like cubes almost, and they've got this really cool feel. You get to open some nice cards, but they also have a fairly consolidated view of what each colour does, what each colour pair does, or in this case, what each colour trio does. I'm not going to waste any more time with an introduction. I want to talk about the set, and like I say, it's a premium set, so there's a lot of expensive cards in here, there's a lot of powerful cards in here, and these are spread across all rarities, so it's not just the rare and mythic slot. The commons and uncommons are also juiced, so we've got things which are downshifted from rare all the way down to common, we've got things that are being downshifted from uncommon to common, rares that are now uncommon, and all this stuff going on, as well as a really, really stacked top end. You're also going to get 2 rares per pack, which makes it even more powerful than usual. So with the original Modern Masters, you would still usually get 1 rare per pack, which means that there would be 24 rares with an odd foil or 2 going around the pod. Here, we've got 2 rares per pack, which means that there's going to be 48 rares at least, probably more. I do have a video on the makeup of draft pack, which you can see. There's a card to it above. I'll put a link down below. But, there's going to be a lot of rares going around. You can see here on the screen. So you're going to get 2 rares. You're going to get 2 foils, which are going to be common, uncommon, rare, or mythic. So, the chance of these being uncommon is going to be quite high. You get your usual 3 uncommons and only 8 commons. And you get this Cryptic Spires card in as well. So the average rarity in the packs is going to be a lot higher. Not only do we have fewer commons, we've got more rares. We've got the same amount of uncommons, but those foils are also going to be generally more rare than common. And to be honest, the commons are juiced here. The commons are all powerful. I don't think there's really very many bad cards, if any bad cards at all. So there is going to be a lot of power going around. Something to bear in mind with the draft is in your first pick, you're going to take 2 cards in this format. So you would take 2 cards from the first pack, pick 1. Then you'd pass it on. You'd take 16 cards in a pack here. So you take the 14 cards from the person on your right. You take 1 card here and you go all the way through pack 1. When you get to pack 2, you take 2 cards out of that pack as well and pass it to the right. And then pack 3, the first pick you get, you take 2 cards out of that as well. I think it's just to kind of stop the field bads from having to pass nice rares. A lot of people might just take the 2 rares, and that's fine. I do get that. But it is something to bear in mind here. It's not like the Commander Legends drafts where you take 2 picks every pick. It's only going to be in the first pick per pack, which is slightly complicated, but not too bad at all. Final thing to note is it's a very, very multicolour set. And to be honest, how multicoloured is it? Well, I decided to look at some previous sets and had a look at the chance of opening multicoloured cards in a pack. And, looking at the amount of multicoloured cards of common, uncommon, rare, and mythic. And this has a lot of multicoloured cards at rare. So I'm going to compare it with Guilds of Ravnica. So Guilds of Ravnica would open on average 3.36 multicoloured cards per pack across all rarities. It'd be a chance that you're going to get a rare in multicolour, chance in uncommons, chance in commons, but you're going to open on average just over 3 multicoloured cards per pack, which sounds about right, I think. Maybe a little bit lower than I expected, but yeah, it sounds about right. You're going to get these multicoloured cards. And when I looked at a few other sets as well, this seemed to be roughly the highest, apart from Alara Reborn, which is all multicoloured. But I looked at Shards of Alara, I looked at Khans of Tarkir, I looked at all these things, and Guilds of Ravnica seem to have the highest multicolour chance out of all of these sets. Doulbe Masters 2022 has 4.27 multicoloured cards per pack, so almost an entire extra card. We're looking at about an extra 25% more multicoloured cards in the set, so there's going to be a lot of multicoloured cards. And also, something that Guilds of Ravnica didn't have in particular is we're going to have 3-colour cards. So there's 48 3-colour cards, there's 10 uncommon, and the other 38 are rare or mythic, so they're going to be fairly prevalent. Not all of the time, but you've got a lot of these. You've got non-common, so they're not going to be super prevalent, but it's going to be really, really multicolored. There's going to be a lot of color pips on your cards, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be a archetype of the format. If you're going to have multicolor, you're going to need fixing, and there's some really good things in here. So we've got the bounce lands to start with. I've recently written an article for Draft Sim on the bounce lands. If you want to check that out, I'll put the link down below. I've started writing some articles for them, and I've been really enjoying it. It's a nice, different, creative outlet. But bounce lands are really good. They are card advantage. You effectively draw a land that you can play, and it means that you can run fewer lands in your deck. If you get like 4 or 5 or 6 of these, you can reduce your land count down in your deck, and with a really, really stonk and powerful set like this, you can fill it with more juice, and you're going to outvalue your opponent a lot easier. So these are good. The double colour, they don't ramp you. You can still tap the previous land for mana. They kind of play like a bit of a tap land, which draws you a land out your deck. But these are card advantage, and they really, really shouldn't be underestimated. There's downsides if your opponent has some land destruction, which is not any of in the set. I can't remember seeing any land destruction in the set, nothing particular. Then you're gonna be fine with these. It's great. They're good to hear, and we've got some nice new art on them as well. Also, every single pack has one of these Cryptic Spire cards, which I alluded to earlier. So this is a really interesting card that plays in a way that I haven't really seen before. So when you build your deck, not when you draft it, not when you play it, when you build your deck after the draft before round 1, you will ring 2 of these color pips, and it will be essentially a tap land for those 2 color pips. So you can draft it at any point in the draft. You might not even know what colors are going to be at this point, and you're going to have a tap land which is going to work pretty much however you want it to do. If you're going to go 5 color, you're going to have to make some decisions over what colors you're going to ring on each one, because each one can be ring with different colors. But I think it's a really interesting idea. I've heard some mixed views on what it's going to be like. I think some people don't like writing on the cards, but to be honest, I think it's fine. It's a throwaway common. It's a cool card, and I think it's going to be something which would be interesting to have in cubes and things like that in the future. Yes, okay, you're going to have the gonna have to write them in some way, but I think it's an interesting design space and something I wouldn't mind seeing a bit more on cards where you don't mind. They're not really going to go in your collection. It's essentially at the end of the day, it's a 2 color tap land, which we've got a million of already. So we've got these. Also, there's a lot of ramp-based strategy in the set, and a lot of these are involved with either cards which can tap for any colour of mana, or things to get a basic land out your deck, or just get a land off the top 5 cards of your library, or something like that. So it's another way you're going to fix the green-based decks. There's 2 of the archetypes which are ramp-based. So the green-based decks are going to have an element of fixing to them as well, so that's something to bear in mind. Before I go on to the archetype analysis, I want to say thank you to all the people who have been supporting the channel over the last few months. The last 6 months have been great. I've quadrupled, I think, my subscriber count, which is fantastic. It's amazing. I didn't really expect this kind of growth at the start of the year. There's a code on the screen for Arena. I think this is for 6 packs of Streets of New Capenna from the pre-release packs, if you haven't put one of those in already. If you do get it, comment down below, and I'd love to hear your views on what you think the set's going to be like. I am shooting for the 1,000 subscriber mark. You can see from the little screenshot on the screen here now. I've fulfilled all of the other requirements. I've recently got the 4,000 hours viewed. In fact, I've smashed it out of the park almost, and that's going up loads every day. I'm really comfortable in that metric, but I do need to still get about 250 subscribers to get myself to 1,000, and I would love it if this video did that. So you can be part of that, and thank you if you have just subscribed, and thank you if you've subscribed already. If you haven't subscribed already, I'm not going to thank you, so get over it. Anyway, go on the archetypes. The first archetype is white, black, green, Abzan, and this is +1/+1 counters. So you can see here we've got Abzan Charm. There is a 3 color uncommon for each of the color trios. So you've got one for each of the wedges, one for each of the shards. And they're not always going to be charms. I think there's 3 charms in here. So Abzan Charm, it doesn't really do anything huge for +1/+1 counters. You do get to put some counters on things, but it does some other things as well. Abzan is usually a very good mid-range deck, and counters really fits that. We've got a few other cards which work in with this. We've got Conclave Mentor, which whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, you get to put another one on, and it also can gain some life. And you've got other ways to put counters on things. So you've got Dreg Mangler here, which puts counters on things from the graveyard. There's some graveyard synergies in with the format as well. And one thing which is going to be a real noticeable point throughout all of these archetypes is there's a lot of crossover. I'm going to touch on it as we go through. I'll touch on it on the end as well. But there's a lot of crossover between the archetypes. So here you've got something which works with +1/+1 counters, but also works with the graveyard synergies, which I think is going to be really, really important. Next, we've got another trio which is highlighted by a charm. So we've got Bantier, white, blue, green, and this is what they're calling big ramps. So this is ramping into big things, like your Annoyed Altasaur here, which is a 7 mana creature. So you've got these things that you're really ramping into. To be honest, Ban Charm really doesn't cover the ramp aspect here, but I think it's still a very powerful card. It's not just big creatures, it's also nice mana sink. So you got River Hoopoe here, which is a fantastic card. It's a real staple from, I'm saying fantastic, but I don't know why, but it's a real staple from Aura Devastation, and when it came back for Amonkhet Remastered on Arena, it was another great addition there. And getting life drawn cards is what you want to do in these big decks. If you can get blue's got a lot of good flash things and instant speed tricks, and as well as just whites. So you can leave your mana up. You can maybe cast a big spell with flash or something like that, and then or just kind of use River Hoopoe if you don't need to do anything else. And you're gonna outvalue your opponent quite quickly with some cards in this archetype. And I think another thing from this is the ramp archetypes are going to be easier to make things, to splash things in. And I've also been told, looking through the spoilers, you are going to be able to play more of your rares, and a lot of the big expensive cards are the rares, so you're going to be able to play the rares that are in your colours more easily anyway. Going into Teamer, so that's blue, red, green. It's another ramp deck in what I'll call a mid-range ramp here. So I think it's still big spells, but not maybe as big as in the Bant one. There's going to be obviously going to be a lot of crossover between the two. You've got green and blue in both archetypes. You've got red in one, you've got white in the other. You could play 4-color, you could play 5-color potentially. We'll have to see how the archetypes kind of pan out. We do have some aggro decks in the format, but I don't think they're going to be massively powerful. I could eat my words there. But especially if you're going to be drafting this in pods, which you almost certainly will be, the pods will balance out. And I think there's going to be some really nice, grindy, big splashy mythic kind of decks that are coming out of this. But we've got Bear's Companion. So this is from one of the cons block. I can't remember exactly where. Probably cons Tarkir. It's a 3-color card. And 2 in the Teamer colours. It's 2/2, but it comes in and it makes a 4/4 green bear creature token. Talking about those crossovers, there's a flicker of archetype in blue, white, and black. So Esper's got a flicker archetype, which we'll come to in a little bit, but this obviously would work quite well with the Bear's Companion as well, because you can flicker your Bear's Companion, you can get another 4/4 token, and you can really go off with that. For kind of your traditional ramp spells, you've got Rampant Growth here, so you search your land for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. For 2 mana, it's a really good effect. It can help get you fixing lands, so if you've got 1 plains in there to splash your white card, you can go search that out, or you can just get whatever colour you need. We're also Ground Assault, so this is another way of using kind of your ramp and getting a lot of lands out. So red, green deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. So it's a removal spell. It's not an expensive one. It doesn't need a lot of mana, but you do need a lot of lands to get the most out of it. So I think it's just another way to show off how some of these ramp decks are going to work with the ramp. Mardu, white, black, red, is an Aristocrats theme. So this is a theme where you make a lot of tokens, a lot of small creatures that you want to sacrifice, and it's generally seen to be sacrificing your own creatures if you don't know what Aristocrats mean. Crackle Doom I don't think really showcases that particularly well, but it is a good removal spell. It deals damage to your opponent. They've got to sacrifice the biggest creature that they've got, or the most expensive creature, which is usually going to be the thing that you'll want to remove anyway. So it does give them a little bit of agency. It won't always remove what you want, but I think it's a good card regardless. We've got some things which care about sacrificing creatures. So you've got Blazing Hellhound here, which you can sacrifice creatures to deal damage to different targets, and you can get some impacts in here as well. We've also got Heroic Reinforcements, which is a card which is the bane of my existence. I hate this card because it was one of the things which made M19 the worst setup ever drafted before. I might have to do a video at some point on why I hate M19 because it was the worst draft I've ever done. But Heroic Reinforcements is a strong card. Often with these Aristocrats decks, you're going to have a lot of tokens because they're the things that you want to sacrifice. You want to sacrifice things which have low value. And if you have a load of 0/1s or 1/1s or things like that, something like Heroic Reinforcements can really, first of all, it makes 2 1/1s, but it can pump them all up at the same time as well. And it can close out a game quite easy. If you've got a lot of small things which can't quite get in, can't quite do the damage, this is going to be the thing which is going to turn the tide in your favour. Going on to what I think is going to be the premier aggro deck of the format. It is Naya Heroic. So this is white, red, and green. And this is Heroic. Heroic cares about when you target your creatures with spells. So the first card we've got here is Glory Scale of Virashino. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, it gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So it's a 4-mana 3/3 that can become a 6/6 whenever you cast a multicolored spell. I already said there's going to be a lot of multicolored spells in the set. It doesn't really work particularly well with Heroic, but there's going to be multicolored spells going to be casting anyway. And it's aggro, a 4-mana 6/6, which is essentially what it is, hopefully going to be in your deck, is going to be really good. You got cards like 10th District Legionnaire. So this doesn't have Heroic written on it, but it has things that care about targeting with your spells. So you can get counters on it, and they've also got things like Thrive's going to be great in this deck. So you're going to make things bigger anyway. You're going to be wanting to attack in with your creatures, but this just targets all of your creatures essentially when you cast it. So you get all of your heroic triggers off and just make your board bigger. It's got its sorcery speed, fair enough, but I think it's going to be super strong in this archetype. Going on to Jeskai, white, blue, red, and we've got a Prowess deck here. So Prowess cares about casting instants or sorceries or non-creature spells. Watch out, some cards might care about one, not the other. Usually it's going to be non-creature spells, but there might be something which cares about instants or sorceries. And you've got Jeskai Charm here, the third of the charms. It's an instant spell, so it works really well with what we want to do. You've got this optionality, it's a really powerful spell. You've got different things, it's a removal spell. If you have your Prowess triggers, which when you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. You can use the last mode here. +1/+1 lifelink on top of your already +1/+1 is, if you've got a few things that are attacking in, you're in that damage race. You might be against a heroic deck. You're not only getting in for a lot of damage against them, you're going to gain some life. Talking about gaining life, we've got Lightning Helix here, premium removal, premium card. You can finish off the game with it, you can aim it at the face, you're going to gain a bit of life. Really, really good card. We've also got the card that is getting all the Porter players, or one of the cards which are getting the Porter players, really, really excited. Monastery Swift Spear. 1 mana, 1/2 haste prowess. Really, really powerful, especially in a deck like this. It's going to be powerful late game. You might draw into this and already have it into sorcery in hand, so you're going to get in for 2. It's going to do exactly what you want it to do. It's great turn 1. It's still quite good later on in the game, and it's going to be a premium common to pick up in the. I mean, if you get 3 or 4 of these in a deck, you're going to be laughing. It's going to be fantastic. I think this deck might end up being quite aggro as well, but I don't think it'll only play in an aggro way. You might just stock it with a load of instant sorcery spells that are going to have some weird combos and stuff in, but I think this is going to be one of the decks which is going to be very variable. You can have a very aggressive version or a very controlling version or something in between. Going on to the first of the graveyard synergies it's Grixis Graveyard Midrange. So blue, black, red for Grixis, and the showcase uncommon here is the Sedaxis Spectre. So this is a really, really good value card. It's a 3/2 flyer. It's got this unearth cost as well, and it can make your opponent discard cards when it hits, which it's going to do as a 3/2 flyer. It's going to get in quite a lot. Yeah, okay, getting on turn 3 is going to be a little bit difficult, but it's going to be definitely possible. We've got other things which care about the graveyard, so you can stock your graveyard with Extract from Darkness. So each player mills 2 cards, and you return a creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you can see their good stuff. They're going to have some really splashy rares. You could well grab one of their rares, and it's just going to be a really good time. The Bloodwater Entity is a Prowess creature, so it kind of works with what we've already seen, but when it enters a battlefield, you can get an instant sorcery back from your graveyard. So you've already cast a really good spell, you've cast your Lightning Bolt or something like that, you can get this back from the graveyard. It's not the only graveyard deck that we're going to talk about. There's obviously crossovers between this and things which are going to be casting spells, and again, we've got these crossovers which we keep coming back to. Talking about some classic decks and things that do really well, we've got black, red, green, which is simply called Jund, or Does It Jund. But there's this classic Jund deck, or the Rock, which is green, black. But this is just solid cards, solid creatures, solid removal, bit of card draw, and just doing the mid-range thing. It's the archetypal mid-range deck. So first of all, we've got the Sprouting Thorax here for one of each of the colours. It's a 3/3. When it dies, create 3 1/1 sapling creature tokens. This might be good going into one of your Aristocrats decks, where you can get you use those to sacrifice. You sacrifice this, then you can sacrifice them as well. Get some really good value off. But it's just a solid creature. 3 mana 3/3 that dies into 3/3/3, 3 1/1s even. Dying to 3/3/3s would be ridiculous. But even so, it's a really, really strong card. You got some solid removal in things like Go for the Throat, so destroy target non-artifact creature. There's a few artifacts in the set, but not a lot. And then we've also got Blood Red Elf, which is a classic card from even just modern Jund, where cast it for 4, hitting something like Go for the Throat off it is going to be great. It gets in the damage, and it's going to be a bit of a spin the wheel and see what you get. But most cards you're going to get off, you're going to be quite happy to cast. In our penultimate archetype, we've got another graveyard deck in Sultai, blue, black, green, in a big graveyard. So this is kind of going big with the graveyard. It's a little bit like the difference between the mid-range and the big ramps archetypes that we saw earlier. The showcase uncommon we've got here is Sultai Soothsayer, so 5 mana with 2 in the 3 colours that we're talking about. For a 2/5, when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand with the rest in the graveyard. So not only are you drawing the best card at the top 4 in your deck, you're going to put the rest in your graveyard, and hopefully you'll be able to make use of these. We've got other ways to fill the graveyard, so you've got Elvish Reclaimer. This helps you ramp, and it gets some stuff in your graveyard. It's a good way to get some of your fixing going on as well. And just stocking that graveyard up. Then we've also got Psychic Symbiont. This doesn't care as much about the graveyard, but it makes your opponent discard. It's a big spell. And then you also get a draw card as well. So, you get a 3/3 flyer for 6, which is okay. Opponent discards. Hopefully they'll have a card left to discard at this point. But also you get a draw card. And it's just kind of going on this big theme that's going to be in these Sultai colours. Our final archetype, don't worry, it's not the end of the video, but the final archetype is one of my favourite archetypes that you get, because I don't think we see it very often, and it's going to be the Flicker. So Esper is Flicker, or ETB triggers, which is white, blue, black. Typically, the showcase uncommon Tower Gargoyle doesn't have any ATB triggers, but it's a solid card. 4 mana, 4/4 flyer. You're not going to complain at that. It is an artifact creature, so that's something to point out for the destroy target non-artifact creature that we saw earlier. You got some Flicker spells in here, so Settle Beyond Reality is a great one that we saw originally in Modern Horizons 1. Exile a creature the opponent controls, or flicker one of your creatures. So you're going to get some great value off this. It's sorcery, so you're not going to have the most shenanigans off it, but it's going to be really good. We've also got some great ATB creatures. The classic here, I think, is going to be Mull Drifter, so you can cast it for its evoke cost. If you can flicker it when you cast it for evoke cost, then it doesn't die. When it comes back in, you're going to draw 4 cards, and you get some real good value off this. It's another great reanimation target, so if you've put it in a graveyard with the previous graveyard decks that we've seen, it's going to be really good. We've got some reanimation spells in here. I think we've got Unburial Rites, so, again, it's going to be a card which overlaps. And talking about overlap, we've seen a lot of ramp. The ramp is going to help with fixing. You got a lot of graveyard stuff. You got a lot of just kind of good, solid mid-range synergies. And I think it's going to be a really interesting format. I think it's going to be quite complex. Yes, there's aggro in there to balance things out a little bit of the fun police, and I think that's needed. But I think it's going to be a really, really interesting format where you might not even know exactly what colours you're going to be playing as you go into pack 3. Because, you might open that really good rare, or that really good mythic, and, there's going to be some strong ones in there. So you can see on your screen here, there's some really, really strong rares and mythics in the set. You've got Damnation here as a board wipe. You've got Monumental. You've got some great Planeswalkers. And the drafts are going to feel really powerful. If you're not used to drafting, you might draft the Master set. You might come out of the draft thinking, I've got the best deck in the world. And you just find that your opponents also have the best decks in the world. And, you got to think about your removal. So here on the screen now is some of the premium removal in the set. It's in all colours. I think green looked like it had a little bit less on average, but, the Ambuscade is a really good card that we've seen before. You're going to want some big creatures in there. But, I think all colours have some amount of really good removal, and it really balances out these really powerful bombs that we're seeing as well. Anyway, that's about it for this video. A little bit shorter than the average primer that I do for some reason, but hey, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a really fun draft. I'm looking forward to it. I've got a premium store near me, which I'll be attending. I'll do a couple of drafts this weekend, and then some of my more favourite stores I'll go to next weekend, because they've got some really good value drafts on as well. So I'm drafting it at least 3 times or 3 times. Drafting at least 3 times. I think some friends have some boxes, so I'm looking forward to drafting it. I'll probably tweet out a couple decks that I have. Feel free to tweet me at PLDMTG with the decks that you manage to draft. And of course, as I've already said, subscriptions are really, really thankful for them. If you haven't done that, like the video, comment on the video, and just maybe watch some of the other ones, share it around, show your friends what this really cool Geordie who will just talk rubbish about draft sets. But I'm really enjoying making the channel, and thanks everybody for supporting the channel. Bye.